everybody's names.
We were muted. That makes sense.
Oh, there we go. Sarah or Alan, can you guys hear us?
Yep.
Yay. Okay. If you're on Zoom, I'm gonna have to call you and get your license number for your one free CE credit. So if you don't mind, I'll be reaching out shortly. Let's see what we have on here. Oh, there's Robin. We have Robin joining us today. She's our closer. She's going around and kissing babies and shaking hands. Okay. So I think we have Sarah, Alan, and Emiliano on Zoom. And then let's go around and introduce ourselves. I don't know if everybody knows each other. I always know I come into rooms and I'm like, so we also have Taylor. I'm Taylor Monroe. And
I'm Bria Bone. I'm the productivity coach alongside Margaret.
Awesome.
I am Lisbeth or Liz or Ravens.
Do you prefer Liz?
Everyone calls me Liz. So
Yeah,
yeah.
it's weird to be called.
Yeah.
All right, and then we have. And we didn't turn. Oh, you can't. Oh, it's. I'm thinking it's mine. Okay, so this is one free CE credit. And if you haven't signed in yet, I'll have Taylor sign in, and Maria, if you're gonna want CE credit, go ahead and sign in with your license number. I know not everybody has it memorized. So if you don't have it memorized, no worries, you can email it to me later. But I don't know if it's gonna be taken full out. O&E's today. So you'll see up on the screen, I'm gonna move to our next slide. And O&E, all the time, people get confused, and please don't be embarrassed with E&O. So, and that's A-okay. They say, oh, I need to order an E&O. Well, E&O is your errors and omissions insurance, and that's okay. This is an O&E, an ownership and encumbrance report. So it does exactly that. When you order this product through Land Title, it tells you who owns the property and any encumbrances. And we'll talk about what an encumbrance is when we get there. So with an O&E, it's a one-time report. So unlike when you go under contract and we order title insurance and you get a title commitment, that will continually update as to what's encumbering the property. With an O&E, it's going to tell you exactly what is recorded with the county against the property at that exact time. So it's a one-time report. So it's kind of funny, at the bottom, that third bullet point commonly referred to as an O&E report, of one report. So in the last year, they changed the name to a one report, and I thought, why? And they're trying to get the message out that it's a one-time look at the property. So you can call it whatever you want. Just say, order me one of those reports with the O and the E in it, and we'll get it for you. So again, it's going to tell you who the owners of the property are, what the legal description is to the property. And I don't know if you guys remember me saying this in the past, but we insure a legal description. We don't insure property address. So we don't insure, 2670 Eudora. We insure the legal description to that property address. And then any encumbrances that affect the property. So like I said, we're going to go into what those encumbrances could look like. And again, they might say, this is the one-time look at the report. It's just going to give you a snapshot of the report. It won't include covenants, minerals, leases, easements. All of that will come up when you go under contract and you get your full-blown title commitment. They really want us to reiterate that for you guys. So sorry, I'm working two screens here with you. Okay. So what's included in the O&E report? Like we talked about ownership. So it is important because sometimes there's more than one owner to a property. So it's going to show you all the deeds until you get to that full 100% ownership. Maybe it's 50-50 owned. Maybe it's 25-25-25-25. And also if there's somebody who's passed away, then the recorded death cert would show on the O&E. So if you meet Joe Schmo on the street and he's telling you he owns some property, this is always good to order because you can make sure that you're talking to the rightful owner, or there's not another owner to the property. So it's really good to look at who exactly owns this property. They may be one entity, but you want to address that way up front if there are any other owners. And then legal description. So most of the time, we're gonna get the legal description from what the county assessor's website has. And sometimes it's the full and sometimes it's the abbreviated, but it's just good to cross-check with whatever information you're pulling from, whether it's RE Colorado or if you have any, as you're listing it in the MLS, just to check the legal description there. And then we'll go into encumbrances. This is the fun stuff. So does anybody know what an encumbrance is? Does anybody want to chime in? Do we want to make this interactive? Johnny probably knows what an encumbrance is.
Yes. There's money owed on the property.
That's a simple way to say it. You owe money to somebody and you can't sell this property unless you give them their money. And it could be many different entities, right? So what's the most common? I mean, Robin's the expert. I pretend to be an expert. I'm not. What's the most common encumbrance you see on a property and that would show up on an owing mortgage?
They own the property.
For the lender. I've also come across a lot of HOA liens from maybe people not making their payments on their mortgage, which means they're also probably not making their HOA payments. Those two have been really common. Mechanics liens, I don't know why have been popping up really high recently. People just not getting paid for contract work.
Okay, I was gonna say, what's a mechanics lien? So if you've never heard of a mechanics lien, it could be somebody who installed carpet on the property and they didn't complete the job or they didn't have an agreement. And it is so easy to put a lien on a property. So all that contractor has to do is go down to the county, fill out a little document, and there's a lien on your property. You can't sell it until you settle and make it right with them. So, lots of exciting stuff can pop up, but more times than not, we'll hope for clean title or a clean O&E, and you'll just see what they owe on their mortgage. So the full definitions here, it's a claim, a lien, a charge, a liability attached to the property. And we have a whole list of them later that we'll share with you. But it'll also include a named search. So the liens are usually against the property, but we'll also search the name of the person who owns the property. So if Andrea Kwame has judgments or tax liens against me personally, could be something like child support or bankruptcy, that's going to carry with me. So we'll search that name and make sure there's nothing associated with the person who owns the property too, rather than just liens against the actual real property. Does that make sense? So we're searching anything recorded against the property, and then we're also going to do a name search. Okay, next one. Here's a list of the encumbrances that we were talking about. I don't know if we want to read through all of them. I'll let you guys take a minute to read them all. If you have any questions, like she said, most common are going to be deeds of trust, assignment deeds of trust. So if the mortgage was reassigned, modifications. So if something has changed with that deed of trust, so on and so forth. So are there any on here that stand out that you guys want clarity on? We'll run through them quickly. Most of them are pretty self-explanatory. If the city has a lien against the property or a bunch of properties in that subdivision, they can put a lien on a property. If you violated the covenants in the subdivision, if a mechanic, like we said, one of those contractors put a lien. Assignment of rents, I imagine, what's that one? I don't know.
Assignments of rents is usually with an investor. They can do an assignment for rents that people pay.
Okay, so you can't, they have to owe the rents before they can sell it, so it's against them as the investor?
Correct.
Okay.
It's just to ensure that they get paid.
UCC?
So UCC can be two things that I'm aware of. There could be more, but the two that I see is UCC for solar, so terminating that solar contract and recording a new UCC.
Okay.
You can also have a UCC for, again, investors who are going to take a portion of money out of the property to reinvest into the property, and they record that as a UCC as well.
Notice of election and demand, we talked about in a sales meeting. That's if they're heading into their defaulting on their mortgage payment, and the bank has filed notice of election and demand at the county saying they're not current on their mortgage, they can't sell this until it's right. Doesn't mean they're in foreclosure yet. And then Liz Pendens, I'll let you do that. We don't want to talk about it, but it's up until 6 years, right? And deferment of taxes, does that have 6 years as well?
Yes.
I don't know the timelines exactly, but these ones kind of, I guess, Jordan in the room, he's had one for taxes, property. No, it was actually taxes against the LLC, right?
It was taxes,
Any unpaid taxes.
it was against the LLC, which was then filed against the whole.
Okay, so when those come up, what we're gonna do is look at that O&E with you and dig in, because it's gonna give us much more information. We can see exactly why there's a deferment of taxes, and is this something that we can move forward with or not? Like we said, death certs if there's a deceased party, and then you'll have a link, so like I said, some of these you may never see, hopefully you just see like release deeds of trust, but there will be linked copies to any of these encumbrances on the O&E. So you're like, UCC, what is that? You click on the link and it's gonna show you that solar agreement. So it'll just explain more when you have an actual O&E in front of you and you see any of these encumbrances listed there. And you're not the expert, so what you do is you pick up the phone and you call us and say, what the heck is this on my O&E? And we're happy to explain and dig in and explain that, hey, this isn't something, it's not a big deal, we can get this paid at closing, or we're gonna need to address this before closing. So we can really work with you.
Real quick, on the notice of election and demand, if you see that come through on an O&E, reach out right away. We want to make sure their sale date isn't 3 days from the day you guys are going under contract. We can always try to get an extension, meaning the seller is gonna have to file for that. But if you see that NAD or notice of election and demand, reach out right away so we can see what that sale date is to make sure that we can hopefully get the property sold before that sale date. That's gonna be a big problem if we go under contract and the sale date's a week from today.
That's a good point. So it'll show the deeds of trust on a property, but why do you, hopefully you know the answer to this question, we're supposed to ask it. Why do they still show on the O&E even if they're paid off?
Because they might not have been released, or they might still be in process of being released. It can take up to 90 days for most mortgage companies to actually release that. So if you're seller paid their mortgage in full 30 days ago, it still might show on the O&E. And that's fine, we'll reach out, we'll get it paid in full letter, we can accept that from the seller as well. And then just ensure that we watch it to make sure it's very good.
Okay, so can you guys hear Robin okay? I feel like I'm really loud when she's talking. Okay, we're good. We'll take it as we're good. Okay, so again, what's included in the name search? And I think this is Jordan's example. I'm sorry I keep using you, but it was such a great one. When we searched his client's name, that's when the tax lien came up. So it's also really important that we're looking at not only the property, but what's going to carry with the owner. So judgments, tax liens, state tax liens, bankruptcies, and that's, I'm glad they put timelines in here, so I remember all these, that's 5 years. And it'll actually state it said in the legal description. I haven't seen one before, but that's interesting to see. So it'll actually give you the bankruptcy case number. And then filed by and their name,
So if somebody's filed bankruptcy, it would come up on their O&E.
because it does a name search, searching their name. So this is what we'll pull. This is the name search encumbrances. The last slide was the property encumbrances, and this is what we will search and find against the name. Now, I think in another slide, I might be jumping ahead of myself, but don't be stressed out. Yeah, if there's very common names, say like, John Smith. So if it's a common name and it's pulling up all these encumbrances against that John Smith, well, there's 5 billion John Smiths. So just call us, take a deep breath, and we'll make sure we have the right John Smith that we're pulling those encumbrances for. It happens a lot. So it happens, they say, in Denver County a lot. So there'll probably be a lot, and only 1 or 2, if any, would be the current owner's liens. So we do not research them. We simply give them the possibility that it may pop up on the title work. So we can't clear anything up yet. We're gonna wait till you go fully under contract and we send you the title commitment and the title work. And that's when we'll start to figure out which John Smith encumbrance is which your John Smith. Does that make sense? Just know that common names can get a little tricky. And that's when we're gonna verify, I guess, social, right? Is that what they do?
Yeah,
They
we're gonna need a full social, birthday, and full name, full, including middle, any juniors, seniors, that's gonna be the most common problem is a junior had something and now is showing on the senior's social security number.
Okay, so we talked about everything included in the O&E, so here's what's not included. So you don't get the covenants in the plat map. So we can add those if you want to see a copy of the covenants and the plat map for the home, for $2. So I guess we should have covered that at the beginning, and O&E is $5. So you get this information for $5 ordering it through us. If you also want copies of the covenant and the plat map, $2 additional, so $7 total. Mineral rights and leases, and the reason why these aren't included is because we don't insure mineral rights or leases, but when we pull the title commitment, they will be listed there sometimes if they're recorded at the county, correct?
Correct. And in that, we would just add a special verbiage from legal that the mineral rights or whatever it may be are being transferred. Even though we don't insure them.
Right. We do entire classes on mineral rights from time to time because it's so convoluted that they're with the property, but they don't always carry with the property. Sometimes they're owned, sometimes they're leased. So just if you have mineral rights questions, give us a call directly, and then we usually can answer most of them, but in most cases, your client, if they're interested in learning more about their mineral rights, we have to refer them to a mineral rights attorney. So we won't show easements, but that will show up on your title commitment when you go under contract. And then we won't show unrecorded liens. The O&E only pulls what's recorded with the county. Now, when we get a full-blown title commitment, it will show unrecorded liens as well, correct? There aren't many unrecorded liens. I guess I wish I had an example of one, but they usually have to be recorded in the county. But if it's like I heard it was, back many moons ago, people would create their own liens. And then when the property went to sale, if it wasn't recorded with the county, then they would have to follow that property and bring up that lien at that time. But now most liens, I guess I don't know, I guess we can call ourselves experts. Maybe 99% of liens are recorded. We've never seen any that aren't unrecorded.
I mean, the most I could think of would be like a mechanics lien, where they haven't recorded it yet, but they have the documentation ready and they're gonna go take it in, is the only thing I came
Yeah,
across with liens of that nature.
And like we said, the O&E is only gonna update you right at that snapshot of time. So when you go under contract, you may see now more recorded liens because they weren't recorded yet. So it takes time to record a lien. There's also something called, which I do a whole class on that too, owner's extended coverage. And this happened to me, so I have a real life example, but there's a gap period. You always want to opt, this is a little side note, always opt for owner's extended coverage. Of course, it has to have the O&E in it, because it covers the time from the time you close to the time it's recorded at the county. And it's pretty quickly these days with e-recordings. But when I bought a condo about 15 years ago or so, a mechanics lien came and recorded a lien against my unit and 8 others for like, I don't know, $8 million or something. It was a big high-rise condo building. And I didn't know we didn't know there was a lien against the property because it hit during that gap period. So it wasn't reported yet. Hadn't reported just yet. So I'm living peacefully in my brand new condo, loving it. And I get, I can't remember if it was a phone call or a mail saying, you need to sign over your power of attorney. There's a lien against your property for $8 million. It was a huge amount. I'm like, and that's how you title insurance though. So that would have been one of those unrecorded lien situations where it just wasn't recorded yet. But it was recorded against my property. And then of course the title insurance company took care of it, signed over my power of attorney. They had to settle with that mechanic. Took many months, but I didn't have any stress or worry about it because the title company provided that insurance there. So
How much is that insurance?
owner's extended coverage is $75. And if you can get it on all properties, do it. There's a few unusual circumstances where you can't get owner's extended coverage. Sometimes if it's meets and bounds and there aren't accurate survey or properties where it's a little bit more risky. Some title companies will say, no, we will not provide owner's extended coverage. But that's a good one to dig into if you want to learn more about that. But always opt for it. It's nominal and it's additional coverage. And many claims come from standard exceptions. I know I'm going over. Yes, many claims come from standard exceptions, and that's what OEC insures. So, okay, and then past due property taxes, those won't come up on an O&E. Which is why? Do you know why?
Just because they're past due doesn't mean they've file any type of lien or motion.
They just gotta pay them.
Exactly. And if, I mean, say you usually pay your taxes at the end of the timeline and you pay it in full. I mean, you technically have your half past due taxes, but they're not gonna charge you anything because you haven't paid it, because you pay in full. So it's not gonna show that.
Yeah.
Nothing being against the property.
And for newer agents, that's what we do at the title company. We order the tax certificate, we order the payout, we make sure that when you close, all taxes are current. So that's another reason why they wouldn't show is because we're gonna make sure those taxes are being paid at closing. That's bringing us current and able to transfer the property to the new owner, so. Okay, so O&E reports, they want us to keep reiterating, they're not title. They don't carry any protection, it's just a one shot of the property at that time for recorded liens or judgments. $5, but it's a really good tool to go to, you know, listing appointment with. And we'll talk about when you would use these and why you would use these. Okay, let's go to the next slide. Okay, this is interesting. So this is I keep talking about title and title commitment when you go under contract. This will show you the difference between an O&E report and a title commitment. And the first one is a public record report. And this one you can get from the county, and all it does is name the owner's legal description and voluntary liens. So an O&E is going to give you the current ownership, the full legal description, liens, the voluntary liens, and involuntary liens. So that's the one you want because you want to make sure you're really checking the legal description. That's a huge reason why you order an O&E apartment too, is that you make sure that you're not missing a parking space or a unit number. We again ensure the legal description, not the property address. So it's always good to double check your legal description on an O&E to make sure you're working with the rightful property when you're writing that contract. Now, when you go under contract, that's when you're going to receive your title commitment. And again, we do classes on reading a title and understanding a title commitment as well. But it gives you everything that O&E gives you, and then it's going to go into covenants and plat map, which you can also get with an O&E if you pay $2 more. Then it gives you exceptions. That's everything that we would insure except for that page, and it will list those there. A judgment research, so it's going to go more in depth if there's a judgment, give you more information. Chain of title, so that's the vesting, right? It's going to show you that chain of vesting in the property going back to, gosh, who knows how long. It's kind of fun to look at the chain of titles, if you ask me, if it's an older property. And then the insurance coverage, that's the title commitment. Once the transaction is closed, we issue the policy within 30 days. So again, you can see how the O&E is very different than the title commitment, or you receive that when you go under contract. Any questions so far on Zoom or in the room? Here we are again. Do I still need title insurance? And O&E is not title work. I think they really want us again to let you know, this is just a quick snapshot. If you ordered an O&E, you still need to open up title when you go under contract. We're beating a dead horse here. Okay, so regulations 813, that's how we are regulated. That's land title and the division of insurance. So way back in the day, Johnny and Bob, maybe Jordan, we used to give O&Es for free. We used to open title for free, like before you went under contract, so you were gonna go to a listing appointment, and you're like, I wanna know everything in that pink column. Here's the property address, you have to send me a title commitment, we would do it for free, now we know. So we're regulated, very tightly regulated, and so now we have to charge in advance for title insurance, it's about $500. But we can do it, say, this is worth it, this is a big property, I wanna know everything that I would see in a title commitment, I'm gonna pay $500 or something. And I wanna see the full blown title commitment, we can do that, if you're gonna get invoiced and have to pay for it, if it closes, it will credit back to you at time of closing. So that's why you go with an O&E, and yes, we have to pay $5, that's why it's a nominal fee, we have to charge for the O&E. And then again, covenants and plat maps are $2. So if you want to order just vesting, you can do that for free. If you want to know just the vesting of the property, just email OE@LTGC and tell me current vesting for this property. So, or you can email us or call us as well. All right, and that's just the current vesting deed, right? It's not the chain of title, it's just gonna show you the most recent vesting. So I don't know, sometimes it gets messy with deceased parties or estates, and you just need to see that current vesting of what that deed looks like before you list the property. Okay, how to order an O&E. So on our website, of course, is where we would love for you to go. You go to ltgc.com, and from there, you'll create an account. Let's see if it'll let me leave. Share that. Go back. We'll stick here for a second, but if you haven't created an account yet, do so, and then we'll sit down and I'll walk you through all of our resources, as well as how to order an O&E. Once you create an account, you just go up to the top right-hand corner, place an order, and you could order an O&E. You can also email OE@LTGC, you can email me, you can email Robin. We may be calling you though for your credit card information the first time, and then we'll keep your credit card information on hand for future reports. But yeah, I don't think there's much more, right? How do you prefer them to order?
I mean, whatever's easiest. If you're driving down the road to the appointment, you need an O&E. My personal preferences, I'll give all the information to O&E, I'll get everything ordered. I'll bring them on the line and transfer you over so that they can have your credit card information, and that's good. But yeah, if you're driving down the road, call. I mean,
Yeah, okay.
I don't really have a preferred one, as long as we get you what you need.
Yeah. So whatever's easiest for you, and also it is nice to create an account on our website too, because then you can see the history of all your past title orders, O&E orders, and we can go through that at a separate time, so think about that. But any questions? I know that was fast. There's actually much more to talk about in an O&E than I thought. I actually haven't taught this class, I don't know, in a year or so. I was like, what are we gonna talk about in an O&E? Land Health puts these classes together, plenty there, so. Any questions? No? No, title's so exciting. You really will care about it when you have a property and there's something on there, and that's why we're here for you guys. You just pick up the phone and call us and be like, what's that report supposed to order? What's this on my O&E? And we'll help you through, but I think that's it. Oh, there, yeah, they wanted to show a little, oh, there's a little bit more. This is what an O&E looks like when you receive it. Again, it's gonna show you the 2 deeds. There was a quitclaim deed, and then these will be linked when you receive them. There's a warranty deed. And then below would be the encumbrances. It looks like that person has a mortgage with Long Beach Mortgage, and then it was sold to AmeriQuest Mortgage. And then George Jetson has a judgment against him for $453. And then they didn't pay their HOA dues, so now George and Jane Jetson have $900 they owe him. So it'll just list them out like this, but you'll have a good idea of what's to be owed. Again, the deed of trust, the mortgage, those are to be expected. But it's good to bring to your clients awareness, like, hey, why do you have a judgment, George Jetson? And why haven't you been paying your HOA liens? You don't have to pay those before we can sell your property. So there's a little example. And then lastly, when do you order an O&E? I think it really looks good if you show up to a listing appointment. Like we said, you're talking to the rightful owners. If there are any judgments or liens they haven't brought up to you, you can address them at that time. And then when you're writing an offer, so you can understand the loans for the seller, if it's paid in full, if they have a loan against the property, what it may look like. So just a couple ideas there, when to order. And then now we're finished. That's it. Any questions? No?
I can't stress enough, order them before you go on your appointments. If you know the people, even if you don't, or if you don't know the people, even if you do know them. We've run into both where somebody will say, I want to meet with you to sell my house, and they're not the only person on title, but they're only the person there. So you can stop that conversation and say, hey, I see your daughter's on title, your son's on title. And it's happened to us where we run into it and the son or daughter doesn't want to sell the house and they don't know the other person's meeting with us.
Wow.
And they can't sell the house without that other person. We've run into it, I've personally run into it where you run into a bunch of federal tax liens without them telling you that, so. Super important, for $5, you can really save yourself a lot of headaches.
Yes. It's so true. And I think sometimes too, maybe they don't know that that mechanic went and slapped a lien against their property. And I don't know exactly the process of how you're notified as a property owner, luckily, so. But I did, I had a canvas lien, I got a call from the title insurance company saying sign over your power of attorney, that was more major, but if it is just the carpet installer, so and it just looks like you do your due diligence, that you really dug in and you really know them and their property, so I think it just makes you look like the expert and the professional as well, so. That's it, we'll let you guys go, and if you're online, stay online, don't get off just yet, let me write down who's up there, so we got. Lisa, Sarah, Emiliano.
Well, your duplex was pretty busy.
Okay, yeah, if you're on Zoom, if you can email me your license number so you can get your 1 credit, or I will reach out to you if I don't hear from you. And that's it. So thank you guys, appreciate it.
That's it.
Yeah.
That was-
It was,
Elizabeth Voorhees was them.
No, it's an installation.
You could do that all day. So we didn't even think about it.
On Elizabeth's, Zoom.
902,000. Yep.
Oh, Alan, okay.
Okay.
I just noticed that was wrong.
I know, that's fine, that's weird. Okay, thank you guys, have a great day. So I'll buy a license number on there as well.
Money in that. That's not-